You'll never survive without me. You have nothing. No money, no career, no future. Without me, you are absolutely nothing.
Without me, you are nothing.
You'll never survive.
Those were the last words her husband said before he walked out, in front of her friends, in front of her family, in front of everyone they had built their life around. He said it like he believed it completely. He said it like it was simply true. 10 years later, Diana Cole walked into Richard's company as its new owner.
I'm here to
And when he
finalize the
saw who had
acquisition.
bought it, he could not believe it was her, but he had no idea how she got there. Drop a comment right now and tell us where in the world you are watching from. And if you are not yet subscribed to Turning Point Tales, hit that subscribe button now. Diana and Richard Cole had been married for 12 years. From the outside, it looked like a partnership. Richard ran a mid-sized logistics company he had built over 15 years. Diana had her own career in financial management, a good one. She had worked her way up quietly with the particular discipline of someone who does not need an audience to stay motivated. Inside the marriage, it was different. Richard was not cruel in the obvious ways. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He simply made Diana feel over 12 years that everything good in their life was because of him. The house, his success, the holidays, his money, the connections, his network, the life, his vision. She had her own salary, her own clients, her own career. But in the architecture of that marriage, she had slowly become a supporting wall that nobody acknowledged was holding anything up. She did not notice it happening. That is how it works, not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small ones. A comment at dinner, a joke in front of friends, a decision made without her input, presented afterward as something they had decided together. By year 10, she had stopped disagreeing, not because she had no opinions, because the cost of having them had become too high. The end came at a dinner party, their friends, their dining room, 8 people around a table. Someone asked Diana about a project she had been working on, a restructuring plan for a client. Complex, significant, the kind of work that had taken her 4 months and had gone exceptionally well. She started to explain it. Richard laughed. Not at the project, at her. He said, "The way you say something you have been thinking for a long time and have finally stopped caring to keep to yourself, you know what is funny. Without me, none of this would even be possible. You would not have the connections. You would not have the clients. You would not have anything." The table went quiet. Diana looked at her husband. He looked back at her with the expression of someone who had just said something true and expected no argument. She said nothing. She picked up her wine glass, took a sip, set it down. She smiled at the table, said, "Who wants dessert?" That night, she lay awake until 4 in the morning. She was not thinking about what Richard had said. She was thinking about the fact that she had not argued, not because he was right, because she had become someone who no longer fought for herself in her own dining room. That realization was worse than anything he had said. She told her best friend Karen the next morning. Karen sat across from her at the kitchen table, listened to everything. Then she said, "How long has it been like this?" Diana thought about it, said, "I do not know when it started. I just know I cannot remember the last time I felt like myself in that house." Karen said, "What do you want to do?" Diana said, "I want to find out who I am without someone telling me who that is." Karen said, "Then you already know what you need to do." Diana told Richard she wanted a divorce on a Sunday morning. He did not believe her. He said she was being dramatic. He said she was overreacting to one comment. He said she would not last 6 months on her own. She said, "I need you to hear me. I am not asking for your opinion about my decision. I am telling you what I have decided." He looked at her. His expression shifted from dismissive to something she had not seen before, something that looked almost like fear. Then it hardened. He said, "Without me, you are nothing." He said it quietly, the way you say something when you want it to land rather than to wound. She looked at him, said nothing, picked up the bag she had already packed, walked out. The divorce took 11 months. Richard's attorney was aggressive. He contested everything: the asset division, the financial contributions, the valuation of what each of them had brought. He told people in their circle that Diana was being unreasonable, that she was angry, that she had never understood the real value of what he had built. Diana's attorney was a man named James Osei. Quiet, precise, the kind of attorney who wins not by being louder, but by being more prepared. James told Diana early, "Your contribution to this marriage is more documented than your husband realizes." He said, "Every financial decision you made, every client you brought, every restructuring project you ran that used his company's infrastructure," he said, "the paper trail is yours. Let me follow it." She let him follow it. The settlement was significant, not everything she deserved, but enough to begin. She moved into a flat on the east side of the city, small, good light, no one else's furniture. She bought a desk first, before a sofa, before a bed frame. She put the desk by the window and she started, not with a plan she had drawn up carefully, with the one client she had taken with the blessing of the settlement. One client. She worked from the desk by the window for 16 hours on the first day. Karen came over that evening, found Diana still at the desk, said, "Have you eaten?" Diana said, "I will eat when I finish this." Karen said, "It is 11 o'clock. Diana said, "I know." Karen put food on the desk beside her and sat on the floor and kept her company until midnight. That was the beginning. The first year was the hardest, not because of the work, because of the silence. 12 years of a life with someone produces a specific background noise that you do not notice until it stops. She noticed it in the evenings, in the mornings, in the moments between tasks when there was nothing to focus on. She did not call Richard. She did not reach out to the mutual friends who had quietly chosen his side. She worked. By month 6, she had 3 clients. By month 10, she had 7. By the end of the first year, she had a small team, 2 people, then 4, then 8. Each one she hired herself. Each one she paid from revenue she had generated from a desk by a window in a flat on the east side of the city. Richard heard about it. He told people she was doing fine in the way you say someone is doing fine when you expected them to be doing badly and cannot bring yourself to say otherwise. Year 3. Diana's firm won its first major contract, a restructuring assignment for a company 3 times the size of anything she had handled before. She managed it in 6 months. The result was reported in a business publication, her name in the byline, her work in the summary, nobody else's name. She sent a copy to no one. She did not need anyone to see it. She knew what it meant. Year 5. The firm had 22 employees. Diana had moved out of the East Side flat into offices on the 4th floor of a building in the financial district. She had turned down 2 acquisition offers. Both times she read the offer, set it down, said, "Not yet." Her attorney James asked her once what she was waiting for. She said, "I will know it when I see it." He looked at her, said, "You have something specific in mind?" She said nothing. He did not ask again. Year 7. Richard's company began to struggle, not dramatically, slowly. The logistics sector had shifted. Technology had changed the landscape. 3 of his largest clients had moved to newer, faster competitors. He had not adapted quickly enough. He had surrounded himself with people who agreed with him. That was always the problem. He had never been good at hearing things he did not want to hear. The board brought in external consultants. The consultants recommended restructuring. Richard resisted. He said, "I built this company. I know what it needs." The board heard him. Then they continued the restructuring without him. By year 8, Richard was still the CEO in title, not in practice. Year 9. The company was on the market, not publicly, quietly. The way companies go on the market when the people selling them are hoping the right buyer finds them before the wrong story does. Diana's attorney, James, called her on a Thursday morning. He said, "I have something you need to see." She drove to his office. He set a file on the desk. She opened it, read it, set it down. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "What is the asking price?" James told her. She said, "Make the offer." He said, "Diana, you understand who owns this company?" She said, "Make the offer, James." He said, "The board does not know who is making the offer. We can keep it that way through the process." She said, "Keep it that way until the day of the signing." The board meeting was on a Wednesday morning. Diana arrived 10 minutes early. She wore the suit she had bought the day her firm won its first major contract. She sat at the end of the table, placed her folder in front of her, waited. The board members filed in, then Richard. He came through the door talking to someone beside him, head down, not looking at the table. He sat down, looked up. His eyes moved to the end of the table. He stopped. The person he was talking to said something. He did not respond. He was looking at Diana. Diana looked at Richard. 10 years. She thought about a dining room table, 8 people. His voice. "Without me, you are nothing." She thought about a bag she had already packed. She thought about a desk by a window on the east side of the city. She thought about 16-hour days and Karen on the floor at midnight and one client becoming 7 and 7, becoming 22 employees and an office in the financial district and 2 acquisition offers she had turned down because she was waiting for this specific one. She opened the folder. She slid the document across the table toward him. The room was completely silent. She said, "Sign it, Richard." He looked at the document, her name on it, her company's name, the acquisition price. He looked up at her. His expression carried something she had never seen on his face before, not anger, not dismissal. The specific expression of a man who said something to a woman that he believed completely and is now sitting across from the proof that he was wrong. Completely. Finally, irreversibly. He said, "Diana," she said, "the attorneys are waiting." He said, "How did you—" She said, "Sign it, Richard." He looked at the document again. The board members around the table watched in silence. Patricia, the longest-serving board member, who had been in the company for 18 years, who had heard Richard describe his ex-wife as someone who would not last, looked at Diana across the table. Something in her expression shifted. Recognition, respect, the specific look of a woman who has watched another woman do something that required everything and is seeing the result of it for the first time. Richard picked up the pen. His hand was not entirely steady. He signed. Diana took the signed document, placed it back in the folder, stood up. She looked at Richard one more time. She did not say anything else, not because she did not have words, because she had already said everything that needed to be said, not at this table, at a desk by a window on the east side of the city at 11 o'clock at night, with Karen sitting on the floor beside her. In 16-hour days and a team of 22 people who had never once heard her say she was doing this to prove something to someone who told her she was nothing. She had not been doing it to prove something. She had been doing it because it was true. She picked up her folder, walked to the door. At the door, she stopped. She turned back, not to look at Richard, to look at Patricia. Patricia looked at her. Diana nodded once. Patricia nodded back. Then Diana walked out. Karen was waiting in the lobby downstairs. She had been there for 2 hours. She stood up when she saw Diana come through the elevator doors. She looked at her face, said, "Done." Diana said, "Done." Karen said, "How did he look?" Diana thought about it, said, "Like someone who finally understood something." Karen said, "Does that feel good?" Diana said, "It feels finished." She said, "Which is better?" They walked out of the building together into the afternoon. 10 years ago, a man told a woman she was nothing without him. He said it in front of witnesses. He said it with complete confidence. He was wrong. Not because she became successful, because she was never nothing. She had always been the architecture. The structure holding things up that nobody acknowledged was there until it was gone. And when it was gone, she did not crumble. She went and built something that had only her name on it. Richard Cole spent the next year as a consultant at the company he used to own. He passed Diana in the corridor sometimes. She was always moving with purpose, always somewhere to be, always exactly who she had been before anyone told her she was less. He never said, "Without me, you are nothing again," not to anyone, because he had sat in a boardroom and watched what nothing had built in 10 years, and the word had lost its meaning entirely. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to Turning Point Tales. We will see you in the next one.